Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rooted Mama podcast. And I say gentlemen because I was looking at some analytics and there are at least 7% of men who listen to this podcast and follow me on social media. So I can't leave you guys out. I want to thank you for hanging in there with us because I totally thought that there were only women listening to this podcast. And I was wrong. So welcome back to everyone, all of my listeners. It's been a little while. And as promised, I am back. We have a new season and there's the same sort of messaging, but there is a theme of this podcast season. We'll get into that later. But for now, before we start the episode, I just wanted to give a warning that there is going to be some sensitive content that's discussed in this specific episode. So I am going to put it as explicit and just have that warning. It's nothing crazy, but I just wanted to give that warning ahead of time for anyone who is a sensitive listener, who, may be triggered by something that I bring up. So warning ahead of time, and let's get into the episode. Before we dive in, I just want to ask one quick thing. If you love this podcast, would you take a second to leave a review or share it with a friend? It totally helps, more than you know. And if you've been looking for ways to support the show, I don't run ads, but I do create digital products designed to actually make your life easier. When you grab one of them, it's a win-win. You get tools that help you, and it keeps this podcast going. You can check them out anytime in the show notes. Okay, let's get started. So I just have to say that I am so excited to be back. Now, I was already leaning towards this direction at the end of season 2, but I had a experience with a reel on Instagram, and it solidified that this was the direction that we were needing to go. So let me tell you the story. My husband and I are a healthy married couple, which means we send reels and memes back and forth on social media. Like all the social medias that we have, we send memes on them. Okay. And I have to say that we are from the Northeast and very close to New York. We have a love-hate relationship with New York City in particular. And my husband thinks it's the funniest thing ever, the way that they talk and the way that they behave. I, on the other hand, am a little bit more sensitive to it. I think it's loud and dirty and the people aren't nice. And we kind of meet somewhere in the middle where we're like, ha ha ha, New York's gross, whatever. Okay. So my husband sends me this reel that for all intensive purposes was supposed to be funny. And in some ways it was because of how much of a hyperbole New York City really is. It very much is a caricature, right? So here's what went on. Now, there was a man. So the video starts, there's a woman who owns the phone, who's recording this video. And she's pacing back and forth in a New York City subway, not in the actual train, but in the area where you wait to get on the train, the station. And there's a man that she shows sitting on the rails, on the tracks of the subway. Now, this man seemingly wants to end his life. That's what it seems like, right? Because if you're going to sit on a train, on the rails of a subway train, that subway cannot stop in time to save your life. Okay. So essentially this woman is recording this man and yelling at him. And the way that she's talking, she's essentially trying to save his life. It sounds like she's telling him, you don't want to do it. You're just doing this for attention. And she's yelling at him saying, why are you inconveniencing all of us with this? Why don't you do it at home? When folks want to commit suicide, they do it at home. When I want to kill myself, I'm in the house. And so this goes viral, right? Needless to say, it goes viral. I think it was when you want to kill yourself, but nobody cares about you because you live in New York or something like that. And it was just so, at first I giggled because I'm oh, New York is such a terrible place, LOL. But then when I really thought about it, I was wow, this is so sad. And it's sad because it very much is a symbol of what we are experiencing as a society, like especially in America. I'm an American. I can't talk for other places in the world, but especially in America, where we very much are desensitized to these very traumatic situations and like these very serious situations. Like, we don't know if he was doing it for attention. In fact, I don't know what happened because the video ended. It was just supposed to be LOL and it's gone viral and people are making jokes about it. Like, I don't know what happened to him. Did someone save him? Like, did they send out mental health people to check on him like once they saved him? We don't know. I think we're so used to really sick situations now. And I think the number one source is media. So whether it be like legit like news media or movies and, fictional things, books, like we are inundated with really horrific imagery. In fact, horror is a genre, right? And even like suspense movies and superhero movies and like movies that are supposed to be fun and bring your family, like there's still a level of like murder and violence. So we've just grown accustomed to seeing various versions of violence and I guess human debauchery in its many forms and human suffering in its many forms in our day to day. And then on top of that, we have legitimate like news media who continuously shows us images of, bad things happening. When 9/11 happened, we had like wall to wall coverage of people jumping out of burning buildings. Like it was normal. And I bring up 9/11 because I was like 11 years old when I was watching people jump off of those buildings. And it has only escalated since then. Like when the whole George Floyd thing happened, like Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, we were continuously seeing Black men being murdered or like variations of harmed, right? Like they were just showing it and showing it. And like we can get into whether or not it was, inflated or not, but like we just kept seeing images of people being harmed. And then we have this whole war going on in Gaza where moving away from news media into social media is just kind of like a thing where I'll be scrolling and then I see like a starving baby that has its bits blown out. Like very horrific stuff that we're constantly inundated with. So that's one aspect. Then the other aspect is that we really are in a crisis in this country when it comes to mental health. And a lot of times people just don't have the capacity. Like there are so many people in our country with issues of their own. They just don't have the capacity. Like they're tapped out. Like they have their own stuff going on. Like the lady was even saying that. Like in that video, she was like, when I want to kill myself, I'm in the house. When folks want to kill themselves, they do it in the house. So like this is very normal to her to like feel the need to kill herself or like to be that low. And then also being around people who want to do it too, right? So like depression or sadness to this level is very much a norm. And she's like, why are you doing this? Like you're inconveniencing us. We all are struggling and you're making it our problem. Like you're making your problem our problem, right? So I think there's a lot of people who are totally desensitized. And I did go and look this up because I like to get numbers. Like it's one thing to just feel like this is going on, but it's another thing to like look at it, look at the numbers, look at the data and say, okay, no, something really bad is going on. So let me get my notes here. And we're going to start with loneliness because this is something that I hear in motherhood a lot. Mothers are lonely and we don't know the gravity of like just how many mothers are lonely. But let's go to like in general. And I'm going to say at the top, there's 350 million people in the country. So we'll get into the exact numbers, but like let's talk about percentages first. Now, according to a Science Direct article, 37% of US adults report moderate to severe loneliness. And I also looked a little bit further and it said that 14% report severe loneliness. Okay. When we look at young adults, 28% say they're always or usually feeling lonely. Always or usually feeling lonely. And when I say young adults, I mean ages 18 to 25. Okay. So like Gen Z. All right, so moving on to the mental health part of it, 1 in 4 Americans has a diagnosable mental illness. 1 in 4. Okay. And 37% of young adults, so essentially Gen Z, report having a mental illness. So let's talk about what that actually means, because when you hear percentages, it kind of hits different than hearing the real numbers. Because like when you hear 20%, 30%, you're thinking, okay, that's not like 80%, that's not 100%, right? So it's like still fairly low, but we're dealing with millions of people. So remember I said the US has like 350 million something people, somewhere around that number. So very quickly it adds up. So looking back, we've got 37% of US adults reporting moderate to severe loneliness. That's 124 million people. When we talk about young adults like Gen Z feeling lonely, 28% is 10 million people. Okay. 1 in 4 adults having mental health disorders is 80 million people. That's more than the population of Texas and California combined. Like think about that. The population of the two biggest states in the country, like all of those people being mentally unwell. Okay. And one of the starkest ones for me is women, of course. 26% of women equals 43 million women. And of those 43 million, 26 million have depression alone. So, like, when we go back to that woman who was saying, oh, when I'm in the house, or she was like, when I want to kill myself, I'm in the house. Like, she's probably serious. Like, she probably has a mental health disorder that makes her want to end her life, because she's probably one of the 26 million women in this country who are experiencing this issue. So, this brings me to the theme of season 3. And like I said in the beginning, I was already thinking about this before I saw this video, of course, but it's even more stark. And that's because the whole purpose of Rooted Mama is to help women thrive in whatever season they're in, but ultimately knowing that most women choose motherhood. Like that's their end goal here. Not the end goal of life, but like that's who they want to be. Like we are created to be mothers. So most women, even if they aren't mothers now, even if it hasn't happened yet, they have this nurturing inside of them and they desire to care for small humans. Okay. Like this is just like normal. Okay. And if 26 million, or rather 43 million women have a diagnosed mental health condition already, and then like 80 million people overall in this age group, like childbearing age, are experiencing loneliness already, like we have a very steep uphill climb to make, right? And so I felt like the best thing to do for season 3 was to address mental health, emotional health, wellness, like all of these aspects that come up in motherhood and are a big problem in motherhood, but are very much there beforehand and are a byproduct of society rather than the baby. Because that's what so many people think, right? Like I did an episode about this last season where I said it's not a fluke, right? And basically what I was talking about was that all of these things where like in motherhood, like low milk supply and postpartum depression, like people act like women stumble into them. And that's just not true, especially like hearing these numbers, especially around mental health in the country. It's not a fluke that a woman would get a diagnosis of postpartum mental health something, right? I didn't even want to say like whatever diagnosis, like postpartum mental health dysfunction, like overall, because it's already like all around her. And like I honed in on this specific video because it really highlights what so many women feel, which is that, yeah, I'm struggling, but no one cares. And so the overarching theme for season 3 is how to survive when no one cares about you. And really, what I mean is how to survive when it feels like no one cares about you. And there are ways, right? We are doing it. I'm doing it. And it actually stems from a motto that my husband and I have that we adopted a few years ago, which is that no one is coming. And it sounds really sad, but we came to that realization when we fully stepped into parenthood, when we had gotten over the phase of newborn. And my daughter, if you guys haven't heard that story, we did our children's birth stories last season, at the end of last season, actually, so you can go back and listen to it. But our daughter had a very rough start to life. She's our second child, but the first child born on earth, the first child we lost. So she's the first like baby that we had to care for and like are still caring for. And she had a very difficult start to life. And so we were very much in survival mode for a very long time. And it did feel lonely. It did feel like nobody cared. Like we had to go to them. And there's some reasons, beyond our families not caring. Like they weren't going to just uproot their life and like move across the country to like help us. But, we really had to survive. Like we had to make choices to get to help because help wasn't coming. Help wasn't there. And there really wasn't a lot that they could do. Because truthfully, for me, like as the mother, I was dealing with an autoimmune disorder, or at least a seeming autoimmune disorder. I definitely had postpartum mental health issues, and a lot of it came down to me just taking care of myself. And that's why I'm going to be pivoting in this direction for the season, because I do know how to get out of this. Like, I do know how to survive when seemingly nobody cares. Like, I've lived my life as if no one is coming, at least no one on earth. Like, I believe in Jesus Christ, and we're going to talk about that too. But I very much live my life that way, and it's not miserable. Like, it's not sad. I don't feel like loneliness because I think this way. It's not a negative mentality to have. It's just like a realistic one, especially when you have videos and stuff like this where, you see people literally not caring. Or like if you're going throughout your day, like you're going to work and like you're having a hard day and like nobody cares. Your boss is still demanding this out of you. Like instead of being a victim and saying like nobody cares about me and like waiting for someone to come rescue you, just accepting and acknowledging that no one is coming, right? So throughout this season, I'm going to have my solo videos where I talk about like my strategies, but then I also have lots of professionals and women who have like different areas of expertise that ultimately will help all of us survive when it feels like no one cares. And we are talking about ways to still thrive, even when there's no one there to rescue you or there's not a real safety net. And again, this very much comes up in motherhood, but it's not just for mothers. This is for women before motherhood, because you can start to create your own safety net and create ways that you can thrive before the pregnancy test, before you even try, before you even have a husband or a partner to even make that baby with. Like these are things that you absolutely can start doing today. These are things that you can start thinking about today, no matter where you are in life. And if you are a mother, this is definitely going to be helpful because you're probably experiencing a lot of issues that mothers experience, like loneliness, like postpartum mental health disorders, like just this feeling that nobody cares. So let's get into that. Years ago, when I first decided I wanted to become the best version of myself, I went out and bought this beautifully designed guided mental health journal. I was so ready to change my life, y'all. But when I got home, I looked around my apartment and every table was covered in junk. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, every table was covered in junk. So I couldn't even write on this journal, even if I wanted to. I didn't even have a clear space to sit down and write. And that moment really hit me hard because before I could grow into the person I wanted to be, I needed some simple first steps just to get my life together. That's exactly why I created the Daily Survival Planner. It's a starting place. Practical, doable strategies to help you organize your daily life so the deeper healing has room, literally room, to actually happen. You can find it in the show notes, and podcast listeners get a special discount. Before we talk about some of the tips and kind of like what to expect coming up in season 2, I did mention Jesus, and I do want to emphasize that I don't believe that no one cares, right? I feel like it's good for like the headlines and like clicks and all that stuff to get people's attention, because like we live in a society where people have like an 8-second attention span and they need to read hyperbole, right, in order to like click. But realistically, there is someone who cares. And if you're already a Christian, great. But if you aren't and you're listening to this and you're like, oh gosh, she's bringing up God, like I'm out. Don't run yet. Let me tell you this. There are people who call themselves Christians who very much are not Christians. There are people who say they believe in God who absolutely worship Satan. There are people who believe in God but are so hypocritical and do things that are so ungodlike that they make everyone believe that this is what Christianity is. And I know I've seen or encountered all of those people. The church the church sometimes steals from its people. There are clergymen who are doing bad things to children. Like we've seen all of those things. They are a reality, but I can tell you this with 100% certainty. These people have nothing to do with the true living God. They have nothing to do with the real relationship that is waiting for you when you accept Jesus into your life. And maybe you don't know where to start, right? Number one is to stop looking at other people as a model for what Christianity is and for what a relationship with God is. Like there are people that you can use, but in the beginning, I don't recommend that because people are all flawed. I'm flawed. I make mistakes. Like I pray that I become a living image of the Lord Jesus Christ. Will I ever? No, because I'm not perfect, right? But I don't want to even be used as a model because your relationship is going to look different from my relationship. The way that I pray is going to look different from how you pray or how someone else prays or how a pastor prays. So my number one tip is don't use other people as a measure for relationship with God. And here's what I'm going to tell you to do. If you don't know where to get started, people always say, read the Bible. Okay, the Bible is very confusing, especially if you've never read it before, especially if you just pick up a random Bible, especially if you don't know that there's multiple translations. Like there are so many translations of the Bible, and the one that's most often passed around is the King James Version, which is so difficult even for very seasoned believers to even read. Like you have to know that to start, right? But even before you open up the Bible, right? Like read the Bible, but before you do that, I actually recommend listening to worship music. The Bible says that he inhabits the praises of his people. So what I would recommend is starting to seek a relationship with God immediately. Like start to get into the presence of God immediately because that's going to drive all the other stuff. You can't apply logic and humanity, like the tactics of humanity, like habits and stuff to the relationship with God. If you do that first, if you get into the presence, if you start to feel what it feels like to feel the love and the presence of God, the other stuff will come. Someone might disagree with me, but this is just something that I think is best for new believers to feel first, like feel the passion and the love and the energy first, and then you'll be motivated to do the other stuff. And if you don't know where to start, you don't know the worship songs, and you don't know the artists, my favorite guy, like my favorite song to send to a new believer is Hard Fought Hallelujah by Brandon Lake. And here's what I would do. I would listen to Hard Fought Hallelujah. Like I would type it in Spotify, Apple Music, and like go to radio. Go to the radio of that. Then do that. Like turn the song on again. Because on Spotify, if you go to radio, then it starts playing all this. Like you got to go to it. Y'all know. So if you go to the radio of Hard Fought Hallelujah and listen to those songs and like make a decision that you're only going to listen to worship music for like 3 days to a whole week. Don't listen to any other music. Just listen to that Hard Fought Hallelujah playlist for the whole week. Okay. And then after that, see how you feel. I just wholeheartedly believe that God truly dwells in worship. Like there is something to that. So I would start there. Don't look at a pastor's sermon. Like don't do that. Okay. Start with worship and then see how you feel. And then after that, watch The Chosen. There's a show called The Chosen. I'm pretty sure that all of them are free now. I think you can look at it on Prime, but Angel Studios, who is the producer of it, they release every season after a certain time completely for free on their app. You can get it on Roku. You can look at it on your computer. You can look at it on your phone. They make it very accessible and it's 100% free. Watch the full 5 seasons of The Chosen. And after that, if you still are not sold, if you're still, okay, fine. Like, but that's where I would start. Okay. Okay. Now, moving on to some of the things that we're going to be covering, I kind of already mentioned this, but one of the big things is getting out of a victim mentality. And I think we're going to just probably talk about that today. And then I'll continue in the next episodes. And like I have blog posts that will be coming up alongside some of these episodes. I think we need to be fully immersed in this, fully committed to this, that we are not going to be victims, that we are not going to complain and say, nobody's coming to save me. We're not going to look for rescuers. We are just going to figure out how to do it ourselves. Not all alone. That's different. Like we're not going to do it alone, but how to accomplish this, right? How to find community, how to find a village, how to create a village. You don't have to be alone. It's just that maybe the village isn't going to find you. Like, does that make sense? Like people aren't going to come to you. I'm not saying that you need to do this all like grab yourself by your bootstrap. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is how to pursue the help that you need. That's what we're going to be talking about in this season of Rooted Mama. And as I said, coming out of a victim mentality is going to be number one on your list. And I know, you probably don't think that you're a victim. You probably are insulted right now that I am saying that you need to come out of a victim mentality, because that's how I was. Like the first time someone even brought that imagery or like that word to my understanding, I was like, well, I'm not a victim. Like that's not what I am, but I absolutely was a victim. So let's talk about what that really means. And when you think about a victim, you think about someone who has been like at the underside of a crime, right? Like someone committed a crime and there was a victim. They were hurt, they were injured, they were taken advantage of. Usually they are weak, right? That's a victim, right? But when I talk about mentality, it's kind of related to that, but less. It's more so this idea that life is happening to you, like that you have no control over your life, that you are at like a disadvantage, that you pick the short stick, that, all of the cliches. You operate from this notion that you have no control over your life, right? Victims don't have any control. And in some ways that is true, right? Like we are not God, so we can't control every aspect of life. So being in submission to that is one thing, like recognizing that you can't control everything, but then being a victim means that every aspect of life, even the parts that you can control, are out of your control, which is absolutely not true. And I'll give you an example of how I apply this. So when I'm talking to someone, like back in the day, when I would be talking to people, when I very much was in this mentality, I would assume, number one, that these people knew what I was thinking most of the time, or like had intentions with everything that they said. Like there was intention behind every word, everything that they said. So if I was talking to someone, let's say at work is a perfect, place to be victimized. So I was at work and I'm talking to a coworker. Maybe I don't like this coworker for some reason. Maybe they're like too abrasive, maybe they're pushy, whatever. And I assume that when the coworker says she works all the time, now I'm thinking she's like, because you don't, right? Like she's saying, I work all the time. And then I assume she's saying, you don't work all the time, right? So I'm assuming that she's insulting me, right? And then immediately I'm like, how dare she like say these things to me? Like, doesn't she know that this bothers me? Like, and go on and on and on, right? I'm assuming that she knows what I feel and she's doing it to hurt me. Now, in this mindset, I see it differently. This person could be abrasive and annoying and all the real things, but maybe she has no idea. Maybe she was raised in a family that talks like that. Like, I have a friend who's just like that. Like, he is just loud and, makes people uncomfortable and pushy and like the center of attention, but his whole family is like that. That's how they live. They are loving people. They are happy people, but that's how they talk, and they don't mean to offend people. And I know that now. Like, I've realized, oh, okay, like this is just who they are. So then if he said, I'm always working, I realize I'm in control of me and no one else. Like, when he says that, I can separate and be like, I'm not a victim. Like, I know that I work enough. Like, I work enough to get my job done. Like, I'm secure in what I do. And I know that he's saying this about himself. He likely has no intentions to harm me. And he likely has no idea that I am even bothered by that, or like could be bothered by that. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, this is something that people say all the time. So like, what's the lesson there? You don't have control over what other people think, but you do have control over the way that you think. You don't have control over what other people say, but you do have control over how you react to what they say. They can't make you feel any sort of way. Like, I know when you're talking, you get into arguments with your partner or with your friends, and you're like, he made me feel so little. I was so embarrassed. Like, he actually didn't make you feel anything, because people don't have control over your emotions. They literally cannot get into your body and change the way that you feel. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't feel good for to probably even hear that, but it is a fact that you have control over your reaction to other people. And once you step out of the victim mentality that you don't have control, then you can start to establish it. You can start to separate yourself from some of the emotions. Like, as this comes up, he says, I'm always working. And then a little me in the back of my mind, the victim in me is like, how dare you say that? I could take a step back and be like, oh, you're feeling a little offended right now because you think that he's telling you that you don't work. But actually, you show up to work every day at, 7 a.m. and you leave at 4. You get all your work done. You've gotten positive remarks from your boss. Like, you don't have to go through the whole thing, but in the beginning, sometimes you do. Like, sometimes you have to literally take your thoughts captive and be like, is this real? Like, is this legit? Like, am I interpreting this correctly? In the beginning, you do have to have those talks, but over time, it gets easier because it becomes easier and easier to separate from some of those like quick, rash, like victim like emotions, and then be able to control yourself and be like, it's no big deal. And I can be honest and say it does get easier over time. Like, in the beginning, when I was starting to really, come out of it, it was hard. I spent a lot of time overthinking and over analyzing and going home and like rethinking conversations. But over the course of time, I stopped doing that. It became less and less. I was able to take those thoughts captive and like rearrange. And now the thoughts don't even really come up anymore. And I'm telling you, I know if you're someone who really deals with this, like struggles with this, it sounds impossible, but I was someone that was in your shoes, and I know that it is possible. There are certain things that do not bother me anymore at all, that used to be like days and days and days of just obsessive thoughts and like thinking about what I should have done, like, or thinking about what I could have said. It just doesn't happen anymore. I keep it moving. And so I don't want this episode to go too long, but that's just one of the things that we're going to be talking about. And I just think that this is going to be a fantastic season. I think that we are going to be moving the needle in the right direction and hopefully transitioning some women, some of you, into mothers who are not struggling, who are not lonely, who are supported, who are thriving, who love motherhood, who feel like they made the right decisions, who love their life. Like, that's the goal. Like, God put us here to enjoy this life. There are things that we do have to suffer through, but I wholeheartedly believe that motherhood should not be as difficult as it is right now. And the best thing that you can do is to start with yourself. Like, it starts just one person at a time. And over the course of time, we're going to see major changes. Like, this is a movement that cannot be stopped if enough women say enough is enough. And with that being said, I do want to ask you guys for a favor. Can you please share this episode, but share this podcast with someone that you know, someone they don't even have to be like a mother, okay? Like we're trying to get to women who aren't mothers yet, right? But they don't even have to be like anywhere in the demographic. Like share it with literally anybody, because someone is going to know someone who will benefit from this. And this is not a message that is seen every day, is heard every day. It's not inflammatory. It's not super entertaining. And so algorithms are not going to be on my side with this. It's going to be a grassroots movement. It's going to be people saying, no, this is worth sharing. This is worth getting out. And so I'm leaning on y'all to help me get this message out, not because I want to be famous, not because I want to get clicks and likes. It's genuinely because I care that much about women. I care that much about the future generation. We don't have to exist in this 80 million people with, like, we're done. We're done with this, right? So if you agree, like if you're like, yes, I am done, help me out by sharing the podcast, liking it, leaving a review, rating it 5 stars. All of these things are necessary to move this needle forward and actually start to see real change in this world. Okay, that deserved a deep breath. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all in the next episode. Thanks for listening.